Allow yourself to settle into a place of calm as we begin this long-form exploration into 5 weak mindsets that can keep us from truly embracing a stoic way of life. As you hear these words, imagine yourself letting go of tension with each slow breath, ready to uncover insights that can help you grow calmer, wiser, and more resilient. This narrative is meant to be soothing and reflective, allowing you to absorb each idea at your own unhurried pace. Think of this hour as a personal retreat from life's usual busyness, a time to ponder what holds you back and how Stoicism can guide you towards steady self-improvement. When we talk about weak mindsets, it is not a dismissal of people's struggles or vulnerabilities. It is instead an invitation to reflect on those mental habits that do not serve your higher purpose, that quietly undermine your well-being, and that stand in the way of a more peaceful existence. Stoic philosophy, dating back to such luminaries as Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epiktet, invites us to look inward. It asks us to understand what is within our control, our thoughts, choices, and actions, and what lies outside our control, external events, others' opinions, or random twists of fortune. By focusing on where we can genuinely exercise agency, we find the freedom to refine our inner world, even as the outer world remains in flux. While each mindset we discuss may manifest differently in each individual, the overarching theme remains consistent. Our outlook, shaped by either self-defeating or self-empowering narratives, sets the stage for our responses to life's many trials. If we notice these mindsets creeping in, we can gently redirect ourselves back to the path of reason, self-discipline, and emotional equilibrium. The hope here is that in identifying these 5 weak mindsets, you can become more aware of them, less prone to their subtle influence, and more empowered to cultivate the stoic virtues of wisdom, courage, moderation, and justice. Take a slow, measured breath. Feel it lift your chest, expand your ribs, and exhale. As you settle, let us begin to examine the first weak mindset, one that often starts as a quiet voice within, only to grow loud when left unchecked. It is a form of negative self-talk that fixates on perceived shortcomings. Perhaps you have experienced that moment when self-criticism takes on a life of its own. Thoughts of "I am not good enough" or "I always fail" loop in your mind, overshadowing any progress you have made. Stoics would encourage us to remember that the measure of your worth is not the sum of your perceived flaws. Instead, you have an essential dignity as a rational being capable of growth and virtue. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that our minds can color reality. If we let negativity stain our thoughts, we color the world with gloom. But if we train ourselves to see challenges as opportunities for virtue and growth, we cultivate a more balanced self-perception. Negative self-talk does not vanish overnight, yet we can mitigate it by speaking to ourselves as we would speak to a dear friend, offering patience, constructive perspective, and forgiveness for mistakes. Acknowledge that growth is an ongoing process, not a single turning point. Allow yourself to dwell on this for a moment. If you notice critical thoughts swirling in your head, gently label them as your mind's commentary rather than an unchangeable truth. The Stoics remind us to approach our thoughts as though they were visitors, some helpful, others disruptive. We can learn from them, yet we need not identify so completely with the harmful ones. By building self-awareness, you cultivate inner space that gives you the option to respond with kindness, perspective, and calm, rather than letting that fleeting negativity define who you are. Take another slow breath, letting your exhalation soothe your mind. Even as you listen, you are setting the stage for a calmer, kinder approach to your own thoughts. The more we practice this perspective, the less we fall prey to that first weak mindset of relentless self-criticism, we begin to see that a flawed moment does not define a flawed life. Stoicism teaches us to remain steadfast, to know that even if we stumble, our journey continues onward. Instead of scolding ourselves for every misstep, we can reflect on how each experience may lead us to refine our character further. With this gentler, more balanced outlook on yourself, take another breath. Then, let us move quietly toward the second weak mindset, which frequently pairs with negative self-talk, but stands on its own as well. A deep-seated fear of adversity. Adversity can come from any direction. An unexpected financial setback, a relationship strain, or the loss of something we hold dear. When we dwell in a fear of adversity, we cling to illusions of absolute security, seeking unwavering comfort and stability. Yet life rarely grants those illusions. The Stoics would have us remember that adversity is often the crucible in which character is forged. Seneca famously stated that fire is the test of gold, adversity of strong persons. If we recoil from any discomfort or threat, we deprive ourselves of the chance to cultivate resilience. Imagine a blacksmith shaping a sword. The metal must be heated, hammered, and cooled repeatedly before it becomes strong and sharp. We, too, must endure a certain forging of the spirit if we are to become steadfast in the face of life's uncertainties. By avoiding the trials of adversity, we also avoid the growth such trials can stimulate. This does not mean we wish hardship upon ourselves, but rather that we accept it as a natural part of life's cycle. One practical way to address this fear is to remind yourself daily that external events, though beyond our control, need not determine your internal response. Should you face a sudden change in fortune, you can choose to see it as impetus for growth. By committing to see hardships as stepping stones, your mindset shifts from victimhood to quiet determination. Indeed, in moments of adversity, you can pause, ground yourself in slow, steady breaths, and reflect. This event is outside my control, but my response is within my power. How shall I act? According to my highest values. Holding this perspective can help you leave behind that second weak mindset. When you find yourself trembling at life's uncertainties, rest in the knowledge that these uncertainties have shaped countless Stoics throughout history. From Epiktet, who began life enslaved, to Marcus Aurelius, who faced plagues and wars, yet still nurtured peace within. Recognizing that adversity is an inescapable feature of existence may help you approach it with equanimity rather than dread. Now, let us gently flow to the third weak mindset, one that can corrode our peace if we let it sink in. A tendency toward envy or bitterness when comparing ourselves to others. It is sometimes easy to look at someone else's achievements and feel pangs of resentment, especially when we measure our own worth by external benchmarks. This mindset tells us that if someone else is succeeding, we must be falling behind. It fosters discontent and nurtures the harmful cycle of constant comparison. Stoicism, by contrast, rests on the premise that each of us has our own path, our own capacity for virtue, and our own tests to face. Imagine you are strolling through a lush forest. Each tree, each flower, each creature serves its own role and flourishes in its own unique way. The oak is not envious of the willow, nor the songbird of the sparrow. This is an image Stoics might appreciate. You have your own nature, your own role, shaped by experiences, talents, and the moment in which you live. By focusing on your development, rather than pining for someone else's success or station in life, you preserve your emotional energy for self-improvement. A helpful practice is to remind yourself daily that the only person you should compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday. Did you make a little progress in self-understanding, resilience, or patience? Then you have succeeded in moving forward. Another suggestion is to reflect on the impermanence of external achievements. Wealth can evaporate, fame can dwindle, physical beauty can fade. For a Stoic, these externalities do not represent your intrinsic worth. Instead, it is your capacity for virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, moderation, that endures as the measure of a fulfilled life. When we wholeheartedly internalize that, envy dissolves like morning mist under the rising sun. Take a moment to breathe in and out, feeling a soothing wave of calm spread through you. This is how the Stoic approach to envy might feel. Rather than wrestling with jealousy or bitterness, you can redirect that emotional energy toward constructive reflection. This person's achievement signals what is possible. May I learn from their effort or refine my path in light of what I see. I can be inspired without being envious. This open and reflective posture dissolves the third weak mindset and replaces it with an equanimous acceptance of your own journey. We come now to the fourth weak mindset, a lack of self-discipline. Stoicism calls us to practice virtue in all aspects of living, whether it is how we spend our time, how we regulate our impulses, or how we handle responsibilities. Without self-discipline, we become like a ship adrift, blown about by cravings, whims, and fleeting distractions. We chase short-lived comforts over the enduring sense of fulfillment found in following a consistent, purposeful course. In your own experience, you might notice how easy it is to surrender to short-term pleasures, scrolling endlessly on a device, indulging in more than you need, or procrastinating tasks that truly matter. Over time, these small lapses in discipline accumulate into a sense of restlessness or frustration. Stoic teachings encourage us to reclaim our agency. Self-discipline is not about punishing ourselves or living joylessly. It is more akin to building healthy boundaries that preserve the energy, time, and focus needed to live according to our higher principles. Consider creating small, consistent habits that nudge you toward discipline. Wake up at a set time, even if it is just a half hour earlier, to reflect or prepare your mind for the day. Set aside moments of digital quiet, distancing yourself from the constant barrage of notifications. Ask yourself before any indulgence, does this help me move in a direction aligned with my deeper values, or does it lead me astray? Over time, these daily acts become ingrained. You shape your habits, and your habits shape you. The outcome is a calmer, more grounded existence, unshaken by fleeting impulses. In cultivating self-discipline, you also honor the Stoic idea that each of us is entrusted with the stewardship of our own mind. As you practice pausing before action, you exercise the muscle of will. You train yourself to step back from immediate gratification in favor of lasting well-being. This does not mean you never enjoy life's pleasures. Rather, you appreciate them in moderation, mindful that overindulgence can drain the very joy they might bring. Through self-discipline, you avoid one of the key traps that robs us of the Stoic's hallmark quality, inner peace. And with that sense of inner peace, we transition to the fifth and final weak mindset, seeking constant external validation. Many of us yearn for approval, wanting others to affirm our worth. We search for likes, praise, or admiration, believing they reflect our own value. Yet Stoicism teaches us that if our sense of self is contingent on the shifting opinions of others, we remain perpetually vulnerable to disappointment and fluctuation. We become leaves in the wind, changing direction whenever we sense a shift in external favor. A more steadfast approach emerges when we turn inward, grounding our sense of self in our character rather than in the fleeting judgments of society. Marcus Aurelius encouraged us to do the right thing because it is right, not because it garners applause or public recognition. After all, applause may come and go. A person could be lauded in one moment and criticized in the next. If we attach our self-worth to that applause, our self-esteem will waver uncontrollably. Instead, the Stoic stands rooted in principle. Whether the crowd cheers or jeers matters little compared to the knowledge that one is acting in alignment with virtue. You can make this practical by catching yourself each time you measure your actions against what others might think. Replace, "Do they like me for doing this?" with, "Is this consistent with my values?" and, "Does it reflect the person I choose to be?" The change might feel subtle at first, but over time, it will cultivate a calm independence of mind. You may find that you feel freer, lighter, when you are no longer enslaved by the opinions of the outside world. This is not about shutting others out, but about letting your moral compass guide you more reliably than a shifting social tide. Pause here to breathe in gently. Let your exhalation usher in a sense of independence. Picture yourself standing on solid ground, unaffected by a swirling wind of external judgment. You remain serene because you are anchored to your own sense of principle and conscience, rather than to a precarious external vantage. This is the foundation of personal sovereignty taught by the Stoics, one that ultimately leads to a more durable sense of contentment. Reflecting on these 5 mindsets, negative self-talk, fear of adversity, envy or bitterness, lack of discipline, and constant craving for external validation, consider how they may arise in your own life. Think of them not as moral failings, but as invitations to deeper self-awareness. Each mindset signals a place where you might be veering off your truest path, letting illusions or cravings overshadow your capacity for reason and virtue. By acknowledging their presence and then gently releasing them, you can move closer to the Stoic ideal of steady composure and moral clarity. If you find yourself returning to one of these weak mindsets, do not chide yourself harshly. Notice it, remind yourself of the teachings you have absorbed, and pivot toward a more balanced response. Over time, these small reorientations add up to a great shift in your internal landscape. You begin to see setbacks as lessons, achievements as stepping stones, and obstacles as catalysts for growth. Even relationships become more meaningful as you cease to harbor envy, practice understanding, and relate to others with genuine empathy rather than reflexive judgment. Through the lens of Stoicism, we learn to value what is good, stable, and within our control: our virtues, our disciplined thoughts, and our capacity for wise action. The Stoic path is not about perfection, nor does it promise a life free from pain. Instead, it offers a sturdy framework for weathering life's storms with grace, forging a refined character along the way. As you live by these principles, you may notice that fleeting impulses for external validation wane, replaced by self-respect, rooted in moral consistency. Take another slow, steady breath, allowing a sense of gratitude for your ability to reason, reflect, and choose. In choosing how you respond to life, you exercise the unique human gift of rational volition. By carefully tending to your mind, you can transform fleeting anxieties into occasions for courage, frustrations into lessons in patience, and resentments into compassionate understanding. This is the alchemy of Stoicism. It is not about ignoring difficulties or suppressing genuine emotion, but about learning to channel your energies into what fosters a meaningful, upright life. As we approach a moment of reflection, notice how calm you can feel by simply grounding your awareness in the present. You are here, breathing, thinking, open to wisdom from ages past. The classical Stoics lived in tumultuous times, facing political intrigues, wars, personal betrayals, and unpredictable fortunes. Yet their words persist because they speak to something universal and timeless: the quest to live well in a world rife with uncertainty. In your own life, uncertainty might come from your job, your relationships, or the swirl of information we all face daily. Pause to ask, how can I bring stoic calm into my immediate situation? Perhaps you can respond to a conflict with measured words rather than reactivity. Perhaps you can place your phone aside for a while to sit quietly, content with your own thoughts. Or maybe you can volunteer to help someone else in need, thereby practicing virtue in action. Each small decision, guided by mindful intent, weaves another thread into a more peaceful existence. Remember that as you continue this journey, Stoicism is not about becoming rigid or detached from humanity. Rather, it is about becoming intimately connected to what truly matters: love, integrity, empathy. These flourished in Stoic thinkers as well. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often spoke of serving the common good, reminding us that even as we refine ourselves, we remain part of a greater human family. So in part, this path also calls on us to treat others with dignity and compassion, even when we disagree or face hostility. Take one more deep, soothing breath. Allow a sense of readiness to blossom within you. Readiness to greet challenges with a calmer mind, to speak more kindly to yourself, to see adversity as an arena for moral and mental fortitude, to keep envy in check, to harness discipline, and to seek validation from your own reasoned conscience rather than the passing approval of the crowd. Such readiness is the gentle momentum that can carry you through life's ups and downs with a new sense of balance. Let yourself quietly savor these reflections. There is no rush to implement them all at once. Stoicism can be practiced in small, consistent steps that accumulate over time into a sturdier, more resilient frame of mind. In your next encounter with stress or negativity, remind yourself of the Stoic teachings that you have heard. Let them guide you to respond with restraint, clarity, and compassion. Reflect on your purpose and hold close the virtues that matter. And if you stumble, as we all do, be gentle with yourself, then stand up and keep on going. The path to becoming more stoic is not about immediate transformation, but about regular practice, reflection, and a patient willingness to learn from every moment. Embrace your capacity for reason, your natural inclination toward moral goodness, and your inherent ability to grow. These internal resources are always within your grasp, waiting to be cultivated. As you carry on, let these ideas be like a lamp that lights your way in the dim corners of doubt or weariness, reminding you that you do indeed have the power to shape your inner experience. Draw in a full, calm breath, then let it slowly depart, as though sending away any tension that remains. Within this gentle pause, you have touched on the heart of Stoic philosophy, forging a steady mind amidst the chaos of existence. You see clearly the 5 weak mindsets that can entrap us and the means by which Stoicism can free us. May you walk forth with this clarity, letting the lessons gather over time, so that you become a serene presence in your own life and in the lives of those around you. Even now, you might feel a small spark of renewal as you reflect on these Stoic insights. May that spark kindle a slow, purposeful flame of self-mastery and equanimity. Remember, each breath is a moment to begin again, to reaffirm your commitment to a more centered way of living. With consistent effort and a gentle heart, you can indeed cast off these 5 weak mindsets and move closer to the resolute composure of a true Stoic. As we transition, keep these insights close, for in the next portion we will continue expanding upon the ways in which these principles can guide your life toward deeper peace and resilience. Let us bring this segment to a gentle close, with gratitude for your open mind and readiness to grow. Take one last slow breath, feeling your chest rise and fall, as you sit with a serene awareness of your own evolving capacity for inner strength. There is no rush, no pressure, only the continuous invitation to refine your thoughts and anchor your well-being in the timeless wisdom of Stoicism. Draw in a calming breath as we continue our journey into the realms of Stoicism and the common mental pitfalls that keep us from thriving with steadiness and grace. Having explored 5 weak mindsets and their potential remedies, let us delve more deeply into how these perspectives connect to everyday life. Think of this as a comfortable fireside conversation, unhurried, thoughtful, and filled with gentle reflection. Each paragraph invites you to sink deeper into the comforting rhythms of Stoic thought, wrapping you in a sense of calm and spaciousness. In the bustle of modern living, it can feel as though we must always run faster, do more, and accomplish feats beyond the capacity of a single day. We juggle obligations, looming deadlines, digital distractions, and the silent pressures of social comparison. Here, the Stoic approach can serve as a sanctuary. It encourages us to retreat, if only momentarily, from the noise, to breathe in the silence of our own interior space, and to remember that we are not measured solely by worldly success or ceaseless productivity. We can reclaim our sense of worth by nurturing what is within our control: our intentions, choices, and the sincerity with which we engage our tasks. This reclamation begins each morning. Instead of leaping straight into a torrent of notifications, the Stoic might recommend a quiet moment of self-communion. You could sit at the edge of your bed, letting the cool air remind you that you are alive and present in this body, this moment. Ask yourself, how shall I greet the day? Maybe you resolve to practice patience, or to refrain from negative self-talk, or to handle the day's setbacks with measured composure. Stoicism is alive in these small daily commitments. If you recall our discussion of negative self-talk, remind yourself that these patterns can be gently challenged. You do not need to argue with every passing thought, but you can choose not to feed it. When a disparaging idea arises, perhaps it says, "I cannot handle this situation," or "I always fail at these tasks." Pause. Acknowledge the thought's existence and respond with a calm inward voice. This is one perspective, not necessarily the truth. Then deliberately shift your focus to a more constructive approach. "I am learning," or "I will try a different method this time." Over many repetitions, your brain starts adopting more balanced narratives, reducing the power of those negative voices. Remember, too, that fear of adversity can paralyze our willingness to try. Yet every time we avoid a challenge, we diminish our ability to handle difficulties in the future. The muscle of resilience withers. The Stoics recognized adversity's paradoxical gift. It tests your spiritual sinews, fostering fortitude. You might recall that Epiktet, once enslaved, used those harsh experiences to cultivate an unshakable internal freedom. If he could find autonomy in such a confining circumstance, consider what that implies for our own lives, where we typically enjoy a far greater range of choices. Let adversity be your teacher. Let it show you how strong you can become when you remain steady in the storms. In relationships, envy can surface so subtly that we may not notice its corrosive effect. We might feel a twinge of bitterness when an acquaintance celebrates a milestone or an achievement, believing their success somehow diminishes our own. When that arises, recall the Stoic principle that life is not a competition for fleeting external prizes. Another's triumph does not reduce your capacity to cultivate goodness in your own corner of existence. Rather than envy, we could choose curiosity, or admiration. How did they achieve that? Or, I am inspired to improve myself. Through these mental shifts, we open the door to empathy and collaboration, fortifying our emotional harmony. Meanwhile, the daily routine demands discipline, yet discipline need not be a grim, joyless regimen. It can be the structure that supports true freedom. Think of a garden. If vines are left untended, they choke the flowers. But if we prune and guide them, the flowers flourish beautifully. In our lives, self-discipline prunes away destructive distractions and fosters the blossoming of our best selves. Maybe you use a simple method. Track small daily accomplishments that align with your deeper values, like reading a chapter of a reflective book, writing in a journal, or dedicating a few minutes to a skill you are honing. The satisfaction from these mindful practices can gently eclipse the cravings for short-lived amusements. And then we come to the need for validation from others, an urge that can be heightened by social media and the endless swirl of opinions. It is easy to be swept into checking your phone repeatedly, seeking likes, comments, or messages that affirm your sense of self. Marcus Aurelius might ask, does this external endorsement truly reflect who you are? If your moral standing depends on how many people praise you, you are surrendering your peace to forces beyond your control. A different approach is to aim at moral consistency, letting the quiet knowledge of having done right fill you with a subtle but lasting sense of dignity. As these principles sink in, you might wonder about practical exercises to deepen your Stoic practice. One way is to keep a brief daily log. At the end of each day, reflect on a single challenging situation you faced. Ask yourself, how did I respond? Did I cling to fear, envy, or impatience? Did I hold fast to discipline or waver into impulse? Did I seek external applause or remain true to my values? You do not need to judge yourself harshly, but simply observe patterns. Over days and weeks, you will see where the mindsets we discussed appear and how you handle them. Bit by bit, you can refine your actions, pivoting from old habits toward the calmer ground of Stoic virtue. Another practice the Stoics recommend is negative visualization. This is not about being pessimistic, but about occasionally imagining losing something you take for granted. Your job, your home, even a loved one. The purpose is not to wallow in morbid thoughts, but to sharpen your appreciation for what you have. By rehearsing the idea of impermanence, you grow more grateful and less distressed by the possibility of change. This fosters resilience. Life's inevitable losses or transitions may still cause pain, but the Stoic approach ensures they do not utterly dismantle your sense of self. If any part of you bristles at these suggestions, fearing that focusing on adversity or imagining losses might cause negativity, remember that the Stoics emphasize acceptance of reality, not fixation on despair. They believe we should not run from truth, but be gently prepared for it. This preparation is an act of care, not dread. A balanced, realistic approach to life's ups and downs keeps us from the shock that arises when illusions of absolute security are shattered. At this juncture, notice how your body feels. Perhaps your muscles have relaxed, your breaths have slowed. Part of the Stoic mindset is mindful embodiment. By maintaining an open posture, a calm breath, and an awareness of how emotions manifest physically, you anchor yourself in the present. This embodied presence is the foundation from which you can witness your mind's fluctuations and respond with choice rather than compulsion. Try to envision a typical day. You wake, reflect on your intentions, attend to your responsibilities, manage unexpected issues, and interact with loved ones or colleagues. In each of these domains, the 5 weak mindsets can stealthily appear. You might catch yourself silently chiding your abilities, trembling at uncertainty, glancing jealously at someone else's success, giving in to laziness, or craving external applause. Yet now you have Stoic counsel by your side. You can remind yourself that these impulses are ephemeral. They do not define you. You can bow to them and let them pass, or you can transform them into opportunities for practice. As the hours pass, and you drift from one task to another, you might recall Seneca's admonition to live each day as a whole life in itself. By remembering your impermanence, you become more intentional about how you spend these precious hours. With that clarity, you may decide to call a friend you have been neglecting, or finally attempt an action you have been postponing. You might also choose to tackle a small fear or face a discomfort you have been avoiding. Each day thus becomes a mosaic of courageous micro-choices, forming a larger tapestry of Stoic resilience. Consider, too, the notion of kindness. Stoicism is sometimes misrepresented as cold or detached, but genuine Stoics recognize compassion as part of virtue. Seneca often wrote about the mutual bonds connecting people. Practicing Stoic principles does not mean ignoring others' feelings or withdrawing from society. Instead, it encourages a calm, reasoned empathy that can guide you to help effectively without being overwhelmed by others' emotions. For example, when someone you care about is distressed, you can offer presence and support, grounded in composure, not panic or impulsive pity. This balanced empathy can be profoundly reassuring. Now imagine you are nearing the close of a day. You have navigated tasks, interactions, and personal challenges. You prepare to lie down, reflecting briefly on the events that transpired. In that reflection, the Stoic might do a quiet nightly inventory, recalling moments of tension or negativity. Did you succumb to negative self-talk, and how might you reframe that tomorrow? Did adversity arise, and did you face it with acceptance or with dread? Did envy creep in, or did you celebrate others' good fortune? Were you disciplined, or did you indulge impulses that left you feeling unsettled? Did you chase external approval, or affirm your own moral compass? By shining the gentle lamp of reflection on these questions, you refine your sense of accountability. There is no scolding, only clarity. You drift into sleep with a plan to approach tomorrow's moments of decisions with greater wisdom. In the hush of night, your mind cradles these insights. Over time, they seep into your being, slowly guiding you away from old patterns of weakness and steering you toward the sturdiness of a Stoic heart. This transformation does not require dramatic gestures. It flourishes in subtle increments, an extra breath taken before reacting, a pause before complaining, a gracious word uttered where once there might have been criticism. The beauty of Stoicism rests in its practicality, weaving itself into the ordinary fabric of daily existence, thereby changing the cloth's quality over weeks, months, and years. You can also share these insights with those you care about, though one must be cautious not to preach or appear holier than thou. Offering a Stoic perspective, calm, measured, and empathetic, can help others step back from their own anxious cycles. Whether it is a friend distraught over a perceived slight, or a loved one fearful of an uncertain future, the gentle reminder that we cannot control external events, but can shape our responses, can help restore a measure of peace. If you ever doubt your capacity to embody these teachings, reflect on how many Stoic thinkers were not born with unwavering tranquility. They practiced, stumbled, and learned. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor with tremendous burdens, confessed in his meditations that he often had to admonish himself to remain dignified, to reject vanity, and to attend to the present duty. We, too, are permitted our moments of weakness. That does not mean we fail the Stoic path. It simply means we are on it, growing with each attempt. Perhaps the greatest gift of Stoicism is the self-respect born of personal consistency. When you choose to live by reason, when you strive to treat yourself and others fairly, and when you stand unshaken by storms that swirl outside your realm of control, you sense a quiet dignity flowering within. That dignity need not be loud or boastful. It can be as gentle as a torch in the night, guiding you forward, keeping you warm, and showing the path to those who walk alongside you. So, as we draw nearer to the conclusion of this reflective hour, let the essence of Stoicism settle softly in your mind. The 5 weak mindsets: negative self-talk, fear of adversity, envy, lack of discipline, and craving external validation, are but illusions that fade when met with conscious introspection and deliberate practice of virtue. Each day offers small openings for improvement. Each breath is a chance to reconnect with the present moment, to remember your values, and to align your action with your higher purpose. May you carry these words with you in the days and weeks to come, returning to them whenever your resolve wavers. Stoicism is not about harsh self-denial, nor about living in a bubble removed from the world's pleasures and pains. It is about discovering the power of your own mind, your ability to remain calm, wise, and compassionate, despite life's ceaseless changes. If you take even a fraction of these teachings and weave them into your life, the cumulative effect can be profound. Imagine for a moment that you stand before a still, reflective lake in the early morning. The surface of the water has not yet stirred with the day's bustle. Here, within this tranquil scene, let us deepen our understanding of Stoic philosophy, especially concerning the interplay between emotional well-being and the discipline of virtue. Each word aims to weave a sense of serenity into your thoughts, guiding you gently to a place of reflection and quiet resolve. Although Stoicism traces its origins to ancient Greece and Rome, its essence resonates profoundly in a contemporary world filled with digital clamors and unpredictable twists of circumstance. In this extension of our earlier discussion, we will focus on an aspect of Stoicism that is often overlooked: the art of temperance and the practice of measured restraint in all forms: speech, consumption, even the management of our emotional surges. When grounded in Stoic logic, temperance is not about deprivation or rigidity. Rather, it is about living in alignment with the humbler truths of our nature and the recognition that overindulgence and waste are, in fact, detriments to our tranquility. Take a slow breath, allowing each inhale to remind you of your presence in this moment. Stoic thought teaches that we can become more present by noticing precisely where we let our impulses slip into extremes, moments where we lose sight of the virtue of moderation. At times, you might sense it when devouring more media than your spirit can healthily digest, or when letting your emotions seethe unrestrained in an argument. The outcome of these extremes is seldom lasting peace. Instead, we feel restless, uneasy, or ashamed. Temperance is our guiding star. To avoid those pitfalls, recall that in the Stoic framework, we distinguish between what is under our control, our thoughts, choices, and ethical posture, and what is beyond us, circumstances of wealth, reputation, or happenstance. Temperance draws from this recognition by teaching us to live mindfully with what we have, balanced by the knowledge that acquiring more and more does not necessarily translate to inner calm. It encourages us to ask, what does enough look like? Or, am I acting out of genuine need? Or am I chasing an impulse fueled by restlessness? Such questions cultivate an internal compass that always points back to moderation and thoughtful self-regulation. From this vantage, consider how your day might transform if you approached each action: eating a meal, responding to a friend's text, managing an unexpected setback, through the lens of enough. Enough nourishment, enough conversation, enough time spent ruminating. In practicing temperance, you carve out mental space to step back, breathe, and decide whether taking more, for example, spending an extra hour scrolling through social media, truly benefits you. In many cases, a calm awareness reveals that enough is indeed enough, and that reaching for more only drains your emotional reserves. A natural corollary of temperance is the Stoic practice of voluntary discomfort. Marcus Aurelius might have said, in effect, that we should not fear minor hardships, for they remind us that we can endure. By periodically embracing mild discomfort, waking a bit earlier, refraining from habitual indulgences, walking rather than driving short distances, we strengthen the mind's capacity to handle more severe challenges should they arrive unannounced. This is not an exercise in asceticism for asceticism's sake, but an intentional reminder that you are more resilient than you may believe, that you need fewer external crutches to remain composed. As you listen to this notion of mild discomfort, perhaps your mind wanders to the adversity in your life that is neither chosen nor mild. Indeed, many trials come to us, unbidden. An unexpected illness, a job loss, or the betrayal of trust by someone we counted on. Stoics never trivialize genuine suffering. Instead, they invite us to harness adversity as a crucible for wisdom, self-knowledge, and empathy. By training ourselves with small acts of voluntary restraint or mild inconvenience, we cultivate resilience that can be summoned when life's major storms rage. Consider how soldiers train under controlled conditions before facing an actual battlefield. Similarly, Stoic discipline in small matters prepares your spirit for larger battles. Bring to mind now the times you have triumphed over adversity in the past, big or small. Perhaps you overcame a particularly challenging project at work, navigated a complicated personal conflict, or weathered financial constraints that forced you to reevaluate your priorities. Even if those experiences were painful, you might see in retrospect that they enriched your perspective, sharpened your fortitude, or awakened a deeper sense of compassion. Stoicism capitalizes on this awareness. Each time we persevere, we add another building block to our internal citadel of calmness. The memory of past triumphs over adversity becomes a wellspring of confidence. In addition to temperance and resilience, Stoicism places great emphasis on living ethically in relation to others. We have already touched on the danger of envy and the futility of excessive validation seeking. But Stoics also highlight the virtue of justice, which involves actively respecting the dignity of others and extending fairness in your interactions. Justice, in Stoic terms, is not merely about legal frameworks or social norms. It is a fundamental moral stance toward empathy and the recognition of a shared human bond. A Stoic tries to question, how can I contribute to the well-being of those around me while upholding my own integrity? If we refrain from practicing justice, we risk sliding into cynicism or bitterness. The mind might whisper, why should I act fairly when the world is unfair? Or, why should I help others when they do not help me? Stoics respond by affirming that each person's moral duty is not contingent on external reciprocity. Goodness stands on its own. By being just, we honor our own rational nature, regardless of whether the world reciprocates our fairness. Paradoxically, consistent goodwill and fairness often evoke a positive ripple effect, inspiring others to reciprocate compassion, even if they do not. A Stoic rests in the knowledge that they have upheld the best within themselves. Now shift your focus to the concept of negative emotions as teachers rather than enemies. The Stoics recognize that anger, sadness, fear, and jealousy are part of the human condition. Yet they believe that by shining the lamp of reason upon them, we can glean insights into our deeper attachments and illusions. For instance, If we are quick to anger when our pride is wounded, that anger indicates an overinvestment in how others perceive us, a sign that we are still anchored to external approval. If fear arises in uncertain circumstances, it might be telling us we have not fully embraced the ephemeral nature of external goods. These realizations do not make the emotions vanish, but they transform them into stepping stones for self-refinement. In practical terms, adopting this approach can look like a daily habit of emotional inquiry. What triggered me today? What does that say about my underlying assumptions or desires? Then gently decide how you might approach that trigger differently next time. Gradually, your emotional life becomes less like an uncharted wilderness and more like a well-tended garden, where you can prune weeds of impulsiveness and foster seeds of equanimity. Remember, every garden experiences storms, but a cultivated garden weathers them with less permanent damage. Moving deeper, let's explore how Stoicism envisions the relationship between personal agency and fate. The ancients recognized that a vast web of causes and conditions extends beyond our grasp. This includes where we are born, the era we live in, the family we inherit, even major socio-political forces we cannot directly alter. At the same time, we hold an internal domain of control, the capacity to guide our reasoning, to act justly, to choose how we interpret events. Embracing this duality frees us from hopelessly wrestling with what can be changed, redirecting that energy toward purposeful action within our sphere of influence. One might compare this to a sailor on the open sea. The Stoic sailor does not control the wind or the tide, but can navigate skillfully by trimming the sails, adjusting the rudder, and plotting a mindful course. Storms might blow the ship off track, but by calmly recalibrating, the Stoic sailor does not succumb to despair. We, too, can treat life's uncertain conditions as the wind, adapting with each shift, using reason to remain anchored to virtue, even if everything else changes unpredictably. Here, consider another core Stoic practice: reflection on impermanence. Observing that life is in a state of constant flux. Our bodies age, relationships shift, fortunes ascend or descend, helps us release our grip on illusions of permanence. Instead of clinging to ephemeral states, we can cherish them while they last, prepared to let them pass gracefully when their time is done. This fosters gratitude and reduces the sting of unexpected loss. It also encourages generosity, for when we recognize that everything eventually moves on, we become less possessive and more inclined to share. If you find yourself anxious about losing something you hold dear, whether it is your job, your possessions, or even your youthful vigor, pause, breathe, reflect. How does the possibility of this loss mirror the natural ebb and flow of life? Is there a way to prepare my heart so that if this leaves me, I can remain whole? This question does not trivialize the pain of loss, but it reframes it as part of the cosmic dance that has been unfolding for millennia. We are mere participants with the power to shape our responses, even if we cannot dictate the outcome. Compassion, ironically, also emerges more fully when we accept impermanence, realizing that all of us walk through a shifting reality. A flicker of existence in the boundless tapestry of time can soften our judgments and foster kindness. If we come across someone who is suffering or in the throes of fear, we can see them through the Stoic lens of shared humanity. Perhaps they have not yet cultivated the inner resources to handle adversity, or they are facing misfortunes we, too, might face someday. Extending patience, empathy, or a helping hand does not require us to lose ourselves in their emotions. Rather, it is an act consistent with justice and benevolence. By now, you may sense how these various Stoic themes temperance, resilience, justice, acceptance, and compassion intertwine into a harmonious outlook. They are not separate compartments, but rather a tapestry of virtues that reinforce each other. Practicing self-discipline, for instance, frees up the emotional space needed to be patient and fair. Accepting impermanence fosters gratitude and humility, which in turn nurtures a sense of empathy toward others. And each time we exercise personal agency within the broad flow of fate, we reaffirm that our character is ours to shape. To keep all of this alive in your daily routine, you might experiment with morning or evening readings from Stoic texts, journaling about a particular virtue you wish to strengthen, or even discussing these ideas with friends who share an interest in philosophical reflection. If you find yourself drifting into negativity or despair, recall that the Stoic path is not about banishing every emotional wave. It is about learning to surf them with skill, to keep your footing on the board of reason, and to trust that the calm within you is deeper than any wave. Over time, you develop the capacity to remain grounded, even when life's waters become tumultuous. You might also consider how these principles apply when facing social or political tensions. Stoicism does not advocate passivity. Indeed, if injustice abounds, the Stoic can act with courage and moral conviction. Yet they do so without hatred or despair, recognizing that righteous action flows from a balanced mind, not from blind rage. The emphasis remains on personal virtue, honoring truth, fairness, and compassion within whatever movement or community engagement you choose. If you can stand up for what is right without bitterness, your voice carries a purity and strength that anger alone cannot muster. Let all these reflections gently settle within you. You are free to revisit them at any time. Stoicism does not demand that you adopt each practice all at once, or that you become a paragon of virtue overnight. Rather, it extends an invitation to begin where you are, to notice your mind's habits, and to gradually introduce more wisdom, calm, and ethical clarity into each day. Each small step accumulates into a lasting transformation. Should you find yourself pulled back toward old patterns, be that fear, envy, or impulsive indulgence, pause and greet these returning mindsets with empathy. They are part of your human story. Then reaffirm your direction. You have the capacity, through reason, to steer your actions more deliberately. In the final measure, it is not about never slipping, but about how quickly you reawaken to the Stoic vantage and stand up again. Breathe in the stillness of this moment. Visualize that serene morning lake from earlier. The surface may ripple, but the lake's essence remains, sustaining life, reflecting light. So, too, can your mind find a reflective quietness amid life's changes, shining back a clear, calm perspective. This is the promise of Stoicism, that with consistent practice, you can nurture a composed heart, a resilient spirit, and a virtuous character, qualities that endure far longer than fickle fortune or fleeting moments of acclaim. May these extra reflections enrich your path, serving as a gentle companion whenever you need guidance or reassurance. From the earliest Stoics to the present day, the wisdom of humility, discipline, and acceptance stands unbroken, linking countless seekers of tranquility. You too belong in that lineage, each time you choose virtue over vice, composure over chaos, empathy over indifference. Let this knowledge be a quiet source of pride and confidence, for every choice in the direction of Stoicism is a gift to yourself and those around you. Thus, in the hush that follows these words, let your mind rest with a renewed commitment to living well, calmly, and with moral purpose. Feel free to drift into restful thought or continue your day, remembering that Stoicism is not a mere intellectual stance, but a lived experience that finds expression in your smallest deeds and grandest decisions alike. May you walk on with a measured pace, a gentle heart, and a spirit that dares to stand in the stillness, unwavering, amidst the noisy corridors of existence. In closing, feel the rhythm of your breath, anchoring you here and now. Recognize that everything we have discussed is within your reach. You have the capacity to question your automatic thoughts, to welcome adversity as a test, to celebrate others' successes rather than envy them, to cultivate consistent discipline, and to seek validation from conscience rather than from the crowd. That is the blueprint for becoming Stoic today, an enduring path that honors the best in you, forging a mind that stands firm and a heart that stays open. Thank you for granting yourself this time, an hour of gentle, introspective discovery. May these reflections accompany you long after this session ends, guiding you with each sunrise and comforting you with each sunset. Sleep, if it comes next, may be deeper and more restful, as your mind has been soothed by the calm discourse of Stoic thought. When you awaken, you will find yourself a little more prepared, a little more grounded, and quietly determined to grow in courage, wisdom, moderation, and kindness. This is the essence of living as a Stoic: to walk through life's shifting landscapes with steadfast dignity, compassion, and inner freedom. May that path continue to unfold before you, step by patient step,